Thank you all for joining us in this edition of KTN News Desk. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Today is the 22nd of April 2013. And well, as we start off the week, anxiety is growing over the names that we are yet to see after President Uhuru Kenyatta did, name the government structure or let out the government structure. And now what is left are the names to be let out. And we're going to be making sure we keep you up to date in that regard as and when we can get those updates. Now, let's start this afternoon's bulletin by looking at a situation in Garissa. Good afternoon once again. Now, motorbike operators in Garissa town will not be allowed to work past 6 p.m. This was the directive issued to them this morning as part of a police operation in the region. The operators have been linked to a series of attacks that seem to target security officials in the region. Over 100 people without Kenyan national identification have also been arrested. As this happens, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Internal Security, Motea Iringo, says government was taking deliberate measures to restore peace in the area. Visitors booked in hotels and renting residential houses will now be closely monitored, and all aliens are also being arrested for repatriation as part of the operation. Officers who have overstayed in the northeastern county should also expect a transfer, something Iringo says will improve efficiency of the town's security. Business premises in Garissa town are reportedly open, and the residents do not seem to be highly affected by the government plans. And also, people living with disabilities have threatened to go to court if county governments discriminate against them in hiring staff for the devolved units. Addressing the media after a meeting in a Bungoma hotel, leaders of various groups representing the disabled complained of being sidelined in the ongoing discussions to elect various people to occupy executive positions in various counties. Now, the groups have come up with a database of persons living with disabilities to help public appointments and also weed out corrupt elements. We have more.
We are concerned that the governors are in the process of constituting their county assemblies and other bodies. However, persons with disabilities are being overlooked in this process, which as a sector we say is no longer acceptable under the new constitutional dispensation.
Now, the largely followed Kenya National Drama Festival continues in Mombasa City a day after the controversial play Shackles of Doom was presented to an audience of hundreds, and the play was staged after the High Court lifted a ban by the Ministry of Education. The students from Butere Girls High School received a standing ovation from a full auditorium at the Aga Khan High School. The play had been banned for what the ministry termed as hate undertones. Now, the intricate performance by the students brutally exposes tribalism, nepotism, and ethnic marginalization. The controversial play has been lauded by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission for depicting the roots of national conflict in Kenya. Well, we're expecting to speak to Fatuma Mohammed from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and who will be giving us an insight on what she thinks about the entire play Shackles of Doom and what that means for a country like Kenya. Debate over pros and cons of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga returning to politics through the National Assembly is slowly gathering momentum as politicians subtly drop hints on the direction that the push will take So far, the push has centered on the Nyanza region, with various first-time members of parliament being touted as potential targets of resignation in a move that will pave way for Odinga to replace them in their constituencies. KTN's Western Region reporter Aprl Mulo spoke with various residents of the region and has filed this story.
For the last 1 week, former Premier Raila Odinga has been stating that he will play his political role outside the confines of Parliament. However, yesterday he attended a meeting that a section of Nyanza leaders organized with the agenda of convincing him to seek a place in the August House. The move has left many questioning Odinga's future in the new dispensation.
Look at the Kalonzo effect. The Kalonzo effect has certainly left a bad, sour, kind of feeling on Kalonzo's political machinations. He has actually, come out like somebody who is not that respected. I don't think that Raila wants to move that direction.
Raila Odinga has been the most prominent politician hailing from the Nyanza region, dominating the scene since the death of his father Jaramogi in 1994.
Kiongozi ambaye tumeona amefanya mambo kwa siasa kwa muda hii miaka yote. Mimi kwa maoni yangu ningependa sana Raila arudi bungeni.
Raila hafai kurudi bungeni kwa sababu ni mtu ambaye saa kuwa mbele. Ilikuwa inabidi kuwa kama mtu wa rais kwa sababu yeye alikuwa anakaa karibu na rais. Sasa kama rudi bungeni sasa kwa ananamia rais, lakini yeye alikuwa inabidi kuwa rais.
At the forefront of the campaign is a group of elders, clergymen and politicians who have been working with Raila for the last 2 decades.
Remember the case of the African National Congress, that is the ANC in South Africa. Mandela played the role of a father figure of ANC, and that is the role that Raila now needs to get into at the moment. He needs to step aside the way Mandela stepped aside and let Oliver Tambo lead the troops, and he plays more of that statesman figure.
But the opinion of the support base remains divided, with many among the younger generation against the idea.
Ningeona tu asirudi sababu tulikuwa disappointed, tulitaka akwe prezo na kwa sasa asirudi.
Kulingana na venye ilikuwa hii 11th parliament angekuwa president, lakini kama angekuwa president sasa kae tu nje ya bunge, atoe tu maoni zake tu akiwa nje ya bunge.
In yesterday's meeting, the former Prime Minister sought more time to consider the issue. For better or worse, his final decision will shape Kenyan politics for many years to come. From Kisumu City, I am Aprl Mulo.
Now, away from Kisumu City, let's move on, as the KTN team was recently in the Thai capital of Bangkok, and while there, they took some time to visit some of the attractions. KTN's Edith Kimani now brings you the sights and sounds of Thailand.
No, this is not a YouTube video. These are some of the things you will see when you're in Thailand's capital city, Bangkok. The crocodile show is one of many attractions the capital offers. We're told the men who do it are mostly poor, trying to make ends meet. But the Kingdom of Thailand, sometimes known as a Big Mango, is no poor nation. It's an important business hub in Southeast Asia, considered an emerging economy. Industrial products and tourism are the major revenue contributors. Tourism is big business here. We're at the Chao Phraya River, which runs through many East Asian countries and right through Bangkok. It's a main attraction, especially for those who are coming into the city. You can see lots of their sites, especially for tourists. It's hard to imagine that the country and most of its tourism infrastructure was underwater in 2004. YouTube videos online eerily remind those who survived what a miracle it was. But the Thai people don't dwell on this. During our stay, no one even mentioned it. Perhaps it is the deep religious beliefs that keep the 12 million Thai nationals going. At almost every turn, there is a temple bigger than the last. This is one of the few we're allowed to shoot. In a country that practices Buddhism, it's no wonder that temples are main attractions here. Where we're at is called the Temple of the Dawn, a very intricate, very beautiful architectural structure that attracts lots of tourists, not just internationally, but locally as well. Then there is shopping. Multi-storied malls selling everything from food to electronics, and when night falls, some roads are converted into street markets where you can continue spending. Our time in the country is short, and soon it's time for us to leave. We've barely seen Thailand, and I can't help but wonder what the rest of the country is like. I also can't seem to shake the image of that man with his head between the jaws of a crocodile. Edith Kimani for KTN.
Thanks, Edith. Well, I guess some things are only done in Thailand and you can never find them anywhere else. Well, let's move on back to Kenya here. Machakos Senator Johnston Muthama has expressed optimism that former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka will eventually lead the opposition in Parliament. Muthama said consultations to bring back Kalonzo to Parliament are ongoing and that claims indicating that members of Parliament are not ready to step down for Kalonzo Musyoka are far from the truth.
And for the sake of the unit of this country, to make this country move forward, we have said we are accepting that decision. We accepted the decision of IEBC. We accepted the decision of the Supreme Court, and we are saying Kenya is bigger than anyone else. But at the same time, we want to state this: we are in the opposition, but not a weak opposition. For this to prevail, Raila must be in the leadership, Kalonzo must be in the leadership. They will only come to Parliament when there are those massive issues which they want to touch on.
Over 2,000 Morans, women and children converged to celebrate a Mayan ceremony that is typically traditional of the Samburu community. The Mayan ceremony is conducted after every 16 years. Within the 9 clans that constitute the Samburu community, all the members of the clan meet together and in a sacred chosen place to conduct the ritual, and the images are priceless. Take a look.
The $1 million image sought after by the world. Sometimes the jumping gets so intense even for the Morans. Welcome to the Amayan ceremony, a tradition among the Samburu community celebrated only once every 16 years.
Tunaua mbuzi alafu tuwe sasa tunatoka kwa vijana tunakuwa wazee. Alafu sasa tunaoa.
An initiation that is attended by more than 2,000 Morans, women and children from 9 clans. The clan members meet in a sacred place chosen by the elders and slaughter cattle, goats and sheep, enough to feed everyone.
Inatuondelea madhambi zote. Hata sisi hata tunapigana na mapokoto, wengine wanashukuliwa na maji, wengine yani maovu mingi sana.
Evil deeds such as cattle rustling that the young Morans often engage in from time to time. The shedding of the livestock blood is a form of sacrifice. The meat is then roasted and distributed among those in attendance, but the women and men are not allowed to eat together. The only time they will be seen together is during a dance. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Now let's visit a story that dominated headlines last week. Debate on salaries for members of parliament is one that is not likely to go away anytime soon. From 885,000 shillings to 500,000 shillings, members of parliament have expressed anger at the Salaries and Remuneration Commission for cutting their pay. Speaking to Yvonne Okwara this morning on Sunrise Live, political editor at the Standard, Martin Matua, says that this is not something that the SRC can wish away, and talks of how the legislators will be willing to hold the House business at random until their concerns are met. Now, here's some of his sentiments towards the members of parliament and the Salaries Remuneration Commission.
The Salaries Remuneration Commission is a Are they going to get what they're demanding for?
They will get their demand, believe you me, because this government will be hit into submission.
They'll cripple it.
There are a couple of options. They will not disband the commissions, but they will stifle it, paralyze it in terms of not giving it money, because it's Parliament that allocates funds to commissions. If the Serem commissions comes up for debate and they don't give it money, they deny it, it will be paralyzed. Okay. Secondly, there are a couple of stuff I heard about from Parliament. There is the controversial VAT bill they've been waiting for. It was last year, it hung in the balance, where Gidai wanted to push some taxation measures, and I saw the other day the KRA commissioner saying that they were expecting to raise 11 billion if that bill had been passed. Believe you me, members of Parliament have said that bill is going nowhere, and they will stifle government of that 11 billion. So the targets KRA is trying to achieve, they will not get it. Do you think Uhuru Kenyatta will allow?
Well, there is Martin Matua speaking to Yvonne Okwara this morning, and would like to get your views. So send them out on our Twitter page, KTN Kenya, and we will sample some of them later on in this bulletin in regard to your thoughts. KTN News Desk takes a short break. More news to come. Do stay with us. You're watching KTN News Desk on the 22nd of April 2013. Now let's take a look at what's making news in the business world. And well, before we can get to that, let's speak to Fatima Mohammed. Earlier on, we had visited a story about the shackles of doom and whether or not this portrays what's on the ground in Kenya. So speaking to us now is Fatima Mohammed, who is from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Good afternoon, Fatima, and thank you so much for joining us. I'll just get straight to it. What lessons do we draw from shackles of doom, and does it really portray what's on the ground in Kenya?
Thank you very much for this opportunity to clarify what is going on. One thing for sure is the play is not exactly portraying what the report of NCSC has said about, because we did an audit for the 2011 about the entire combination of the state funds of Kenya. And in that, we didn't portray one community as the one that dominates all the jobs. We portrayed as 5 big communities in this country. And when you look at this, it kind of demeans one community, showing that like they're greedy or something like that, which is against the spirit of national cohesion and integration. So when you talk of national cohesion and integration, you talk of communities coming together and having tolerance to each other. But when you look at this play, which was displayed yesterday, we find that it's completely against the spirit of national cohesion. And this year's theme of the drama festival is performance towards national healing and association. And when you look at that, it doesn't portray that at all. One thing is...
Well, thank you very much, Fatuma Mohammed. That was her giving us an insight on what she thinks about shackles of doom and what exactly it portrays in Kenya. You know, given the opposition that the play faced in Kenya just shortly before it actually was showcased. Now, let's take a look at factors to watch in the business world, and we kick off with wild oil prices, and Brent crude hovered around $100 a barrel today, finding some support from bargain hunters after 3 straight weeks of lower prices on worries about the world economy and the impact on fuel demand. And also, let's now take a look at Africa now, and Malawi is set to release March inflation data. If you recall, the consumer price index quickened to 37.9% in February this year. And in Botswana, Botswana is actually to announce her lending rate. Botswana Central Bank in February left interest rates steady at about 9.5% at their last meeting to try and rein in inflation. And also, Africa finance ministers have told their rich nation counterparts at the weekend meetings of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank to work harder and faster to kickstart their economies to avoid a prolonged slump that could undermine growth, and that is in the developing world. And speaking of the World Bank, Tanzania has signed 3 loan agreements with the World Bank worth $196.5 million to strengthen its energy sector following major gas discoveries in Tanzania. Tanzania actually is meant to use this for the development of this gas. Now, we're actually going to have to take a look as well at other business stories. And national carrier Kenya Airways is set to hire about 11 expatriate pilots during the course of the year to fill the current shortfall in pilots. The airline currently has 466 pilots flying its fleet of 42 planes made up of Boeing and Embraer aircrafts but says it needs about 530 pilots to efficiently run the fleet. KQ currently has a shortfall of 40 captains and is trying to build flying hours for fast officers to qualify as captains. To qualify as captain, one has to have flown for 4,000 hours, which can take up about maybe 7 years, and with that time taking too long, forcing KQ to turn to other markets to fill in the gap. The carrier and the Kenya Airline Pilots Association, KALPA, have been at war in the past, KQ arguing that there is a shortage of qualified pilots locally and made attempts to hire foreigners, while KALPA has provided them with a long list of pilots that it said were qualified and remained unemployed. KQ says hiring foreign pilots will not lock out local pilots given its project Mawingu expansion plan, in which it will see double its fleet and significantly increase the destinations, including flying to every African capital over the next decade.